Hey guys, it's Susan here, and in this video I'm going to show you the structure and the format for doing an organic Harold. This is long form improv and it has been workshopped for us by Jonathan Pitts, so I hope you get to try it out and that you have fun with it as well. The first thing to note is that this only works when you have 6 people in the group, no less and no more. And I'm going to explain to you why that is. I'm going to explain to you, firstly, how the Harold works, the bulk of it, the meaty part, and then a possible intro and outro that you can use, and one that's worked for us. So let's get started. Firstly, the organic Harold is really focused on building those relationships and really fine-tuning them and discovering what these 2 people mean to each other. So in the first beat, you have 2 people step out and do a scene, and then the other 2 people, and then the final 2 people, they step out and they do a scene. The benefit of this structure is that it really takes out the stress and the ambiguity, because what happens in the second and third beats is that these people that have established these relationships, that you come out and you play the exact same characters in a different scenario. So you're the same characters. Let's say you're father and daughter in the first scene. You're going to be, again, the same relationship in the second scene, but the scene is going to take place in another time and another place. It could be a time in the future. It could be 1 minute into the future, or a month into the future, or 10 years into the future. You basically get to decide how long into the future it's going to be. And again, in beat 2, the aim of it is to confirm the relationship dynamic or the patterns in that relationship dynamic. And again, you are sticking with the exact same scene partners right through till beat 3. And in the third beat, something changes about your relationship. It could be a power shift. It could be a change in a point of view or change in attitudes. It could be that one of the characters has done a complete 180. Whatever it is, something generally changes. That's interesting. And if you forget to do that, if you forget to establish relationship, confirm it, and then make sure something changes, if you just take care of the relationships in itself, that generally happens organically. So the other thing that I like about the organic Harold is that it really focuses, there's usually a group mind that happens. Generally speaking, after you and your scene partner have done your scene and you're stepping out on the sidelines, it gives you a chance to think about what are the possibilities that could happen next with these 2 people in this relationship. And sometimes when I find that I'm playing this, that my scene partner and I are thinking the exact same thing. It doesn't always happen, so you still have to be flexible, but generally speaking, it takes out a lot of the stress of who are we to each other, where is this taking place, and why is this happening? Because you already know who you are to each other. All you need, and you already have the backstory after you've done the first beat, and it's about building and enriching that relationship. So that's one of the things that I love about the organic Harold. It really focuses on the relationship aspect of the entire show. The other thing that we tend to do is we tend to self-edit. And self-editing really gives you a lot of control and power as to when you and your scene partner feel like you're ready to end this and to move on. So generally speaking, the scene ends when there is an agreement, not necessarily verbal agreement, but it could be an agreement in energy. So 2 people can have a disagreement about something, but they both agree that they disagree. That's still an agreement, and they can end the scene because they have the same energy. Sometimes if one scene is taking too long, then you need to have the agreement that someone will run across the stage and end that scene just because it's taking up too much time. So these are the agreements that you have with your team members and the ways that you support each other. The other thing that people ask is, well, if they're 2-person scenes, how do we play together as a team? So there's 2 parts to that question. The first one is you can still be an inanimate object in the scene, or you can also take you can also contribute to the background and create the back scene of that scene. So generally speaking, it is focused on 2 people, but you can obviously support your team members by helping to create the scenery. And the other question is, do you play games in between each beat? Yes, that is certainly an option. Obviously, if you have a shorter time slot, you can skip those games, and the organic Harold will still make sense in itself, and it will still be really intriguing to watch. We tend to avoid games just because it adds a lot of stress, and also especially if you have team members who are stepping in for other people that is fairly new, and you haven't done a lot of work with them in the past, skipping those games is totally fine as well, because again, it just really makes sure that you focus on the relationships between you and your scene partner. So that's mainly the bulk of the organic Harold. And when you play this, you'll find that it's actually really fun, because it takes out the stress of having to step out all the time. You already know what your relationships is. It's already predefined in the first beat, and you just get to build on that. In terms of intros and outros, the one that's again, Jonathan Pitts has helped us to workshop, is the personal storytelling intro. So you start off by getting a word of suggestion from the audience. And let's say the word of suggestion is time. So what happens is each person steps out and they tell a very short story of what that word of suggestion means to them. It's important to note that you step out in front, so that, and because the common mistake that people make is they tend to step out into center stage. And when you step onto center stage, it feels like it's a collective story. You want to tell your own personal story. The advantage of this is that it gives the audience a chance to really get an insight into who you are before you start playing characters. So one person steps out, and then they tell their story of what the word of suggestion means to them, and then you have a phase in and phase out effect. So the second person, it doesn't have to be in order at all. Another one of your team members will all step out and start talking about what time means to them. So for example, one person could say, time is a non-renewable resource, and I often think how much of it we're wasting. Someone else can step out mid-sentence and say, there are so many movies about racing against time. And as they step out, the other person steps backwards. So that is, once everyone has told their story, all 6 people walk out to the front of the stage, and they all start talking simultaneously of their personal story. That obviously is chaos, and you can only have chaos for about 3 seconds. So after around 3 seconds of everybody talking, one person or a group of or everyone yells time or whatever the word of suggestion is, and they try and do it as simultaneously as they can. So that basically concludes the intro. You then go in and you do the Harold, as I shown you in the previous slides, and then with the outro, what happens is, again, the same thing. It's like a loop around the intro. After the last scene of the organic Harold has completed, one person from your team walks out to the front of the stage, and they start again talking to the audience about the original word of suggestion. So they might start off by saying, yeah, there are so many movies about racing against time, and it's so predictable, so what's the point of watching them? So then once your team members pick up that it's actually the ending, they all join you on stage, and they all walk out in front and start talking about their own personal story. Again, because everyone's talking simultaneously, this can only last for about 3 seconds. And then after 3 seconds, you all consecutively yell the word of suggestion, and then that basically concludes the show. So I hope that's been useful for you to know the structure of the organic Harold, and also the possible intros and outros. Again, my suggestion is to modify this and use it as you see fit. There are no real rules in improv. It's all about the agreements that you and your scene partners and your team have with each other. I hope that you get to try this out and leave a comment below as to how this worked. And I'll see you on the flip side. Thanks for watching.